Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are two intellectuals and a fool. We broadcasting live tonight. Something new for us. Uh, we're up there bring a lot of energy to the show. I can tell you, I'm a little bit frustrated at this point because it's been a struggle for me today. And on top of that, one of my co-hosts ticked me off and got me fired up about the show. So we expect to see a little bit of fireworks going on because he was saying some crazy stuff to me, and I'm going to expose him tonight. Speaking of my co-host, my brother James Fisher Davis, one of our intellectuals, and brother Richard Lancaster, another learned man that spent a lot of time in the library and reading books that I never heard of. And we had talked about the program tonight, how we were going to do it, and to me, that's all out the window. I'm going from scratch now and just tripping. But the first thing we wanted to talk about was we want to do a little bit of share a little bit of information with y'all about one of our co-hosts, and that's brother James Fisher Davis, who's written a new book. Talk about intellectuals. This man has written a book, something I've been talking about doing for 40 years and hadn't got a chance to do. But Brother Fisher Davis, why don't you tell us a little bit about this book? You and I talked about it. It's part of your life story, your memoirs, but I don't think it's quite there. But tell us a little bit about the book and how you can get it.
I appreciate that, Sarge. You kind of caught me off guard a little bit in regards to it. Name of the book is Bound by Togetherness Through Service. All my life I've pretty much been about service. You and I was having the conversation. I was like, I remember the first Desert Storm. I had a family member serving in every military branch during that particular time, and obviously I have been serving this wonderful state of North Carolina for 3 decades in a multitude of capacities, and extremely proud of that. So this book is really about human connection and how we connect with one another. We do it, by sharing parables or telling stories, and then we have some different experientials at the end of each chapter in regards to it. You know, we have done a fantastic job, I think, uh, as human beings, as we've gone about the business of trying to interact with one another on in some instances, but then in other instances we haven't. I think we're a lot better than what we have shown sometimes. So this book is designed to assist with providing a pathway to being the best human being that you could possibly be, and treating one another with honor and with respect. So I'll share that with you for now. At some point, maybe we'll be able to delve into it. Like I said, you caught me off guard a little bit, but I do appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that that you appreciate what we're trying to do.
Well, I do, and tell us how we can get that book. I expect to
Um,
get mine free, but anybody that want to pay some money to get it, we need to let them know about it.
yeah, you can actually go to Amazon in regards to it. There's a lot of different things that we are doing. We're providing leadership development training and relationship building and character building and communication sessions, and we're doing that across the board, whether it be high schools, colleges, universities, individuals within the community. We're providing it to law enforcement as well. So any of the proceeds that we actually receive from the book will actually be going directly toward that initiative as well. Like I said, we can be better. We're not saying that we have all the answers in regard to it, but I believe that this will be a tool that individuals will be able to utilize, and I'm prayerful that that would be the case.
Richard, as I told him before, um, I expect to get a book free, and I expect your book to be coming out pretty soon. But I told him anything other than 50 pages, we got a problem because I can't go past that.
Well,
But
I'm pretty sure that it takes 50 pages of laying the groundwork,
right.
before he gets to before, before you get to the
Well,
to the
listen.
to the fact of the matter,
I don't think talking is the same as writing. So because he can talk for 100 pages an hour, don't mean he can write 100 pages an hour. So
I consider that for you, Coach. So during the whole process, I was thinking about you, had you on my mind,
I'm
and
sure
I
you
knew
did.
I knew it couldn't be much longer than 50 pages. So I think that the individuals will appreciate that.
You knew I had limitations. What you're trying to say, I get it. Let's get into it tonight. As I said earlier, I've had a struggle the last few minutes getting my stuff together for the show, but we're on it now. But before that, my friend James Fisher Davis got me a little heated. I mean, I was low key, just waiting on the show, and he calls me up and says, "We tired of talking about the NBA. Let's talk about something else."
I was
And
prepping you, Coach. I was prepping you.
listen, I'm like, the brothers I know want to talk about the NBA. I don't know what you want to talk about. So I said, well, we can talk about anything tonight. I'm open. I'm wide open. And as y'all know, we discussed some things uh, before about what we're going to talk about. But one of the things that my brother James Fisher Davis wanted to talk about, and it's a great topic, by the way, is our sister Serena Williams and her legacy and where she would go down in history as a tennis player, because she did lose her first match at Wimbledon. I can't say it. Wimbledon, and which is unique for her because she usually goes deep into whatever tournament she plays in. And his question was, is that it for her? And if that is it for her, will she go down in history as the greatest female tennis player? I mean, the greatest tennis player in history. Will that be her? And just to give you a little background the way our conversation went, I said, is there any question? Is there any question? Just to put you there. He said, well, I don't know, Coach. And I went, you don't know? You don't know? So I'm going to give you a chance, Richard, to rebut that question mark that Brother James Fisher Davis put behind Serena Williams' name as the greatest women tennis player in history. What do you say?
Be mindful, Brother Richard, that this was merely a question. I have no idea where he's going, but this was merely a question.
Well,
Hold on. Don't. You told I told you I was gonna put you on the spot. Here you go. Go ahead, brother.
Sarge, I think you hit it. I think you hit it right. I don't think that's the right question. I think the right question is, she the greatest women's athlete
Of all time.
of all time.
Definitely.
I think I think that's the real question, and I think that she has made the case. She's made the case with her play, with overcoming all the odds, with all her accomplishments, her and her sister, and her. The reason why women have equal pay at tournaments like Wimbledon. I mean, the women get paid the same as the men. I know at least in Wimbledon, and maybe on the circuit, is largely due to her. And the amount of the criticism that Black athletes get in general, the way that they're discussed and all that, and her in particular, and this just questioning her her womanhood and her, her, body type, looks, the whole Indian Wells uh, event. I mean, in tennis, in tennis, and here's the other thing, and I haven't seen the movie, um, but I've often thought that her mother had a very strong influence on her, because when you look at, she follows all the protocols when she wins these tournaments. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better representative, and she's just, and her mother, is, just seems very, gracious. But from what I understand, I mean, and clearly Richard Williams had the influence, and he had the vision, and he put them in a position. And I think, really he was probably more responsible for the total approach that they have to the game. I mean,
Well,
I think the discussion is, I think the consideration needs to be, is she one of the greatest female athletes that we've seen?
well, if you haven't seen the movie, you need to see it. I watched it 3 times, and it's an inspirational movie. Will Smith did a great job. He deserved the Oscar that he won for the movie. They supported the movie, and it gives you some inside details of how they started and up until the point they really turned pro. So if you haven't seen it, you know, it's on HBO now, I believe.
I'll tell you,
But you need to.
here's I was prepared to see it, because I think it came out sometime in the fall of last year,
Yeah,
and people were talking about it, and and I was, for whatever reason, going to see it. And I know we don't want to go too deep off into this, but the incident happened, man, and that put a sour taste in my mouth.
right, right,
You know,
right.
but on the strength of your recommendation, on the strength of you seeing it 3 times,
Well, listen, it's
I'm
not
gonna have to,
about
I'm gonna have to reconsider.
it's not about Will. It's not
Yeah,
about him.
yeah,
It's about Richard. It's about
exactly.
him, what he did,
Yeah,
and y'all being parents of athletes, you can relate to trying to develop your child, and he had a plan, and he worked the plan, and it worked. But I don't want to go too deep into it. Coach, go ahead and embarrass yourself.
In regards to what?
You know what
It
I'm
was,
talking about.
listen, this was this
oh,
was
wait a minute,
this
wait a
was a
minute, wait,
question.
wait, wait.
Hold on, let
We
me.
done spent we
This
done
was a
spent the
question.
last 13 minutes talking about it,
This was a
and
question,
and and
and the
this is
reason it was a question,
it,
the reason it
Hey,
was a question is because of what we normally do. We have conversations. A
right.
lot of times when we're trying to determine whether or not someone is in the top 10, whether or not someone's in the top 5, whatever we do, we 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 talk about that. That metric that we use is we talk about championships. Now, she is one of my favorite, probably my favorite tennis player of all time. So the question was, if she does not break that record, if she does not break the record, but most importantly, if she does not win another major at this point, do we still look at her and view her as being the greatest women's tennis player of all time? And I'm not saying that that will not be the case. What I was saying is that if we're using that criteria in reference to, other goats and greats in regards to sports, if we were to use that in reference to her, would we view it the same? Would we use that criteria and that criteria only? And that's where the question actually came in, because you have to admire her for what she has done, as well as Venus. Because Venus started that process for the Williams sisters. Matter of fact, she took on the heat first, because when she first came out, okay, so there's the heat. right? So at the end of the day, you look at the body of work that she's actually been able to put together, and I totally agree with that. At the same time, I was talking about this is how we're always trying to measure the individuals, whether they be male or female, in regards to those championships. So if that is the case, what is it? What is it? So for me,
Wait a minute. Where do you stand?
in regards to Serena,
Don't give me the universal. Where do you stand on her being the greatest female tennis player in history? Where do you stand?
I think that she is.
All right, good.
Because of the way she changed, because of the way she changed the game, because of the way that she conducted herself, because of the way that Venus went about the business of conducting herself. When there was times when I know there was a lot of tension in those locker rooms, and those was a lot of things that were actually being talked about as well, right? So where do I stand in reference to it? Yes, I think that she is, but I'd also like to see her win another major too.
That's the wrong one.
That's extremely important.
Well, let me tell you what I think. You want to know? I'll tell you. Your matrix and your rubric, whatever the hell that is, does not fit this situation, because if you compare her to other GOATs, Bill Russell won 11 championships, right? Kareem won 6. Everybody says, the majority of the people say, Michael Jordan is a GOAT, right? Would you agree?
That's
You
what
would.
that's
Would
what the
not say.
majority of the people say.
The majority of people say he's a GOAT, right?
hmm
So Serena won 23 majors. Margaret Court won 24. How many people you think on this podcast right now even know who the hell Margaret Court is?
Well, and the thing you got to add to that, Sarge, is doubles championships.
Yep, she won those too.
Nobody can touch that record.
Yeah.
Nobody can touch that. So for any person that questions whether or not Serena Williams is the greatest female tennis player in the history of the world is an idiot.
And didn't she win? Did she win after she had her child?
Yes.
She's
won.
She had a major after she had a child.
I don't think she won a major after she had a child.
I believe she did.
Well, maybe she did. I'm not sure, but I know she played in the championship.
Yeah, we got a comment here that says if she gets one now, she's superhuman after the baby.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think she won. I think she lost after she had the baby to. I know she lost to.
I think she may have gotten to 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think she lost to Osaka for sure.
Osaka, yeah. But she went deep. And she lost to Osaka like, semifinals or maybe
semifinals. Yeah. So, but anyway, just to get Brother Fisher Davis off the hook, and I'm glad we got some comments about that, because you got some real people out there that know what it is. That's not even a question we should have suggested. She is the best that ever did it. Question. I could ask you if Tiger was the best that ever did it. Then you get some more argument, especially from Richard's point of view. What you say? Quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Tiger is one of the best. Tiger's one.
No. Hold on.
You see what I'm saying?
Hold on.
We've already moved the target again, and that's why I asked the question.
Is Tiger? Well, both of y'all do it. I'm the only one that's definitive on this show. That's why I'm the fool. I tell you what it is. Tiger is the best that ever did it. And what do you say, Brother Fisher Davis? Is Tiger the best that ever did it?
I believe that Tiger's the best that ever did it. Not only because of the wins, but because of his skill set. Because you have to take a look at that as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan, Bill Russell analogy there. Okay, so you got Tiger and Jack Nicklaus.
Right.
Okay, and like you said, Kerry, probably most of the people know, if they know Jack Nicklaus, it's because of Tiger saying I'm going to beat his record.
Right.
But in terms of seeing Jack Nicklaus play, and understanding then, and if my father was here, because he's seen them both, I think he'd be able to lend some pretty good commentary on that. If I had to guess, I think that he probably would come down on the side of Tiger, if I just had to guess, because I've never, and here's why I say this, okay? Golfers, most good golfers play the Titleist ball, right?
Yeah.
My father for decades played the Titleist ball. And then Tiger Woods comes along and he's playing the Nike ball.
Right.
Okay. So if you just use that as a criteria, right?
Well, yeah, I get it, but that's like saying, well, it's not quite like saying, that's like saying Bill Russell wore Chuck Taylors and Michael Jordan wore Nike.
It's the
same. Things change,
yeah,
bro.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm
just saying.
You staked it out tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
Like
there you go.
Hey.
All right. What you got for us, Sarge? What you got for us?
Fisher Davis, it's his fault, man. If I was drinking, man, I would be talking crazy. But, well, let's go on to basketball. The NBA, brother Fisher Davis.
Yeah.
And this is a question. Well, we'll go. All right, this is a question that Brother Lancaster had, because we are in Charlotte. People don't know, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, we are in Charlotte. I mean, our hometown team is the Charlotte Hornets. I'm a Hornet fan first. Now, these other people might be different, but I'm a Hornet fan first. I have a second team, but the Hornets are my first team. But the Hornets been trash over the last few years. The last couple years, they put together some young boys that can play. Last year, I thought they were going to go to the playoffs. They made it to the playing game, and then they just said, man, I ain't trying to go they just mailed it in. But I think they have some talented pieces. They decided to fire their coach, Borrego, who seemed to be a pretty good developer of players, and the young boys look good. They got LaMelo Ball, who everybody say is a budding superstar. So they fired Borrego, and they had a coach in mind. He committed to coming and decided he wasn't going to come. So they went back to the old well and hired Steve Clifford. And my brother Richard Lancaster said to me, does it make sense? I'm paraphrasing now, for them to go back to an old coach rather than get somebody new and fresh and keep pushing with these young boys that they got. And the question I have for y'all is, what do you think about that? And what do you think about the way coaches are being hired in the NBA at the same time? Richard, let me start with brother James Fisher Davis, because he has thoughts on this that he'd like to share with the public.
We gotta check a question in the chat too.
That's right. Let's not be remiss. Let's deal with the question in the chat.
Yeah, the question before. So
about
can
Tiger?
you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
The psychological situation going on with Tiger and him being the best ever?
Well, listen, why don't you answer that question, since just to give the audience a little insight on what we do for our real jobs, that you work on one of the major golf courses in the city, or have been for some years, And you tell us what you think, because I think you have a little bit more insight.
Well, here's the thing that's amazing to me. Okay, um, I mean, in his prime, I mean, he captured everybody's imagination, including mine, and most brothers, I mean, he moved the needle. In any other situation where somebody um, leaves an event, a high profile event, giving a high profile lesson to another celebrity, drives himself instead of being driven, speeds, dang near kills himself, um, has the best medical care um, that you can get, comes back and enters a tournament, and you got 4 and 5 people deep wanting to see him play. If it had been anybody else, it'd be all kinds of criticism of that person for being crazy enough to be driving that fast. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Tiger. I mean, I don't follow him that much, to know of why all these things seem to happen. Um, Tiger's in a whole different space. And the one thing that people have to understand is, just because you're very good at one thing, you're good at that one thing. It may or may not carry over to other aspects of your life. And clearly he made he went through a phase. He upended his life, some 9 or 10 years ago, but seems like he's worked to get it back together. He's got great relationships with his children. I think he's probably a lot more comfortable with himself. Um, I mean, the way he played was going to impact his body anyway, and then he's just done a lot of other things that have impacted his body. But I mean, we may be, it's very well, possible that we could be a year or two from now, waking up and reading that, uh, Tiger Woods did X, Y, and Z crazy thing, and we all be scratching our heads, saying, why would he do that? Tiger's seems to got proverbial proverbial the world by the tail, right?
Yeah. You know
So
what? Let's hope that he does not. Let's hope that he does not do that. It seems to me that when things started uh, uh, being extremely difficult for Tiger was when he lost his dad, because his dad, everyone knows, spent a lot of time with him, and they were extremely close. And if anyone really knew him, I'm more than certain his mom knew him extremely well and knows him extremely well. But Earl knew him extremely well. And at some point in time, even as a young man, as much success as you could possibly have, um, you kind of you want to try to find your own independence. And when he lost Earl, it seems like that's when a lot of this started to take place. And I don't know if he ever really found anything to kind of, you can't replace your dad like that. But I don't know if he ever found anything else that he could actually hold on to that would really help anchor him. And from the psychological standpoint, which is what the question is asking. I think if you go back and you kind of reflect on it, you'll see that some of these things started taking place when Earl was no longer in the picture. And I hate that for him. I hate that for him. But Tiger's gonna be fine. Sometimes we think that money and fame, that type of thing, should make everything okay for you. But I had a very wise man tell me once that, what, there are individuals who are sitting or going to bed at night in mansions who are crying themselves to sleep. Individuals who are rolling around in Mercedes who are absolutely positively boohooing up and down the road. So just because you have those things doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going to be in order in your life. It helps. I know Sarge is it helps a great deal. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But I think a lot
let me
of that
say
was that.
let me say this, and then I'll move on to the coaching thing. Okay, James, I would agree with you in 08, 09 when things got upended. And I think the question is a pretty good one because you're talking about something that happened, in 2021. For the life of me, I don't know if that story ever be told, but there's so many question marks on why that particular thing happened. Why he was going that level of speed on that road,
Hmm.
why he was even driving himself, because some kind of sponsored type of event. So I that has a whole nother set of question marks. Let's talk about the coaching thing.
Well,
Uh,
wait a minute. Before you do that, I want to tell you about Tiger. When Tiger was here playing in the Wachovia, he was seen driving around. They gave all the golfers Mercedes, and
Mercedes, yeah.
he was seen driving around town in a Mercedes. He's always been an independent kind of dude, and he was seen running down the parkway down there near the golf course. So he that's what he does. But I just want to say one thing about his emotional state. And I've always said this because I've been around some good athletes. It doesn't make you smart or, or emotionally set because you can hit a baseball or make a jump shot. I mean, that's a skill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't really get into people's crazy because there have been a lot of talented people who didn't last long on this earth. Um, and I'm going to ask y'all a question about a couple of them tonight. But uh, you know, that's the way life is. Nobody knows when it's your time. But hopefully he'll be around. All right, go ahead, Rich. Talk about your
So,
issue.
so I think you set it up. Well, the Hornets, like I've heard this term that they seem to be on the come up, right? They got a good player, good young player in LaMelo Ball. They got another good player in Miles Bridges. Um, they got all the makings of a good team. So they're attractive. As any, for any coach, the first kind of criteria that they're going to look at is, okay, what am I, whom am I working with? And the Hornets got the makings of a good team. Now, I think they drafted some good players, Williams and McGowan is the other guy, James. And so they got some good players that they drafted. They got Rozier. Um, they got the makings of a good team. And clearly, Atkinson left them at the altar. But then, you go out and you get a coach that you fired, one, for a reason. Um, you get that same coach, his record is less than 500. You got an owner in Mike who has this championship pedigree. Kupchak has a championship pedigree, and and I'm not the fan that you may be, Sarge, but while I'm halfway interested in maybe going seeing these young guys, then as a organization, you make a decision to get somebody to lead them that hasn't proven that he can lead, or hasn't proven that he can, that he can take this team and make them a contender that can at least not only get to the playoffs but get past the first round. And I gotta believe that were other choices out there that the Hornets could have chosen from to get there. And
Yeah,
we
well,
got
I gotta push back on what you say a little bit because Steve Clifford was the last coach to go to the playoffs with this team, but at the same time, he has a history and he's known for not wanting to play younger players. And that's what I'm worried about with him coming back. I think he's a good X's and O guy. I don't know how good he is at motivating players, but that's yet to be seen.
Well,
Coach, go ahead.
you need some imagination, and you know, I mean, and from a business standpoint, you know, the Hornets, the Hornets have to make it attractive for LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and whoever else, to be here,
Yeah. You know what's going to make it attractive? A big ass chick.
That's right.
That's
and that's the other part of the equation.
Yeah.
We don't, when we have paid the big money, it didn't pan out.
Yeah, and they're trying to get rid of one of those deals. But go ahead, Coach. Tell us what you think about tell us what you think about the whole coaching situation in general, so you can philosophize and tell the people about what you think about it. I want them to know firsthand, like I know.
Well, we've had this discussion. We've talked about it ad nauseum, to be honest with you. When Richard talks about imagination, sometimes in order for someone to have an experience, you have to give them an opportunity to have the experience. And imagination comes in, I believe, when you can actually look at someone, kind of like you can look at a talented player or someone who has talent and say, you know what, I know what this individual can actually become, what they can actually do if they are nurtured to a certain extent and they're actually given the tools to be able to do it. And he can correct me if I'm wrong, or if I'm speaking out of turn in reference to why he was saying the whole imagination piece. But I don't think that in the NBA that we always look for those individuals who have promise when it comes to coaching. The NBA has a tendency to regurgitate coaches. It's an amazing thing. It really, in the coaching profession, especially on the professional level, it's one of the only professions really where individual get fired. He's hired tomorrow, then they get fired a couple months from now. Then all of a sudden they're running the team the next year, and they're the same ones.
Coach,
So for me, the only thing I'm thinking about in regards to it is, at some point in time, I just would love to see some of these other promising coaches just get opportunities in reference to that.
Coach, let me challenge you on that just a little bit. Just a little bit. The Lakers, one of the most storied franchises in the history of basketball. In my mind, the most storied. Just hired Darvin Ham, who's never been a head coach in the NBA. The Boston Celtics last year hired Idoko, whatever, I can't pronounce his name, had never had a job. There's been several coaches. My man in New Orleans never had a job. They hired him. There's been several new, young assistant coaches over the last 2 years to get jobs of coaching. We talking about the NBA. We ain't talking about the NFL.
Over the last how many years?
The last 2 years.
Okay.
So, I think that maybe 3 or 4 years ago you could say that, but I think that some people would challenge that now.
Well, I say that because, at the end of the day, I look for a pattern. I don't look for you to do something for a year or two, and then all of a sudden I'm like, throwing up my hands and praising you in regards to it, because the pattern has been that has not been the case. So until you break that particular pattern with me, and a year or two does not break that pattern for me. Now, maybe for some it does, but that's when we talk about this idea of we agree to disagree without being disagreeable. 1 to 2 years for me is not a pattern.
We can agree to disagree on this one.
That's right.
Because if you look at my man in Phoenix, what's his name?
Monty. I think it's
Monty's been there
Monty.
what, 3 years?
This was his. I think it may have been his third year because he was actually a Sixers assistant coach.
And listen, I'm just naming brothers. I'm not even talking about other young coaches. Period. I'm just talking about brothers. So
Hmm
I think
Again,
I think,
that's 2 years, and that's not breaking a pattern for me.
but no,
Yeah,
he's been there longer than 2 years. But I just think that the NBA is changing the pattern on that. I think you
Good,
stuck on the NFL because they ain't hiring no
good.
brothers. But go ahead,
well,
Rich.
You know, if
I
that's what
think
they're doing,
I
that's
think
fine.
the last couple of years, I think James pointed out, most of this change has happened in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
You know, here I mean, why they fired the last coach, I kind of thought maybe he was deserving of another year. I thought it might have been a little bit premature to, essentially say, hey, look, we want to go in a different direction because you haven't, made the playoffs in the last 2 years. So I thought that was a little, premature, but it also kind of indicates, okay, well, if you're being that punitive that quick, then that means that you really want to elevate your play, or you really want to elevate your situation. And Steve Clifford is not elevating the situation. A, a coach that you fired, even though he took them to the playoffs before, and a coach that has a less than 500 record, you fired a coach that, your rationale is he didn't get you to the playoffs. He had 2 or 3 years to do that. He didn't do that. So that tells me that you want to move your program forward, and you want to do it now.
well,
That
I would say
if
this about that. Mark Jackson brought Golden State to a certain point. They fired him, and Steve Kerr came in and won a championship.
and that's like Tony Dungy gets fired in Tampa, and
Come in,
come
right,
in with his team and win. So Tony Dungy goes somewhere else to win a championship.
right. He
I
learned
don't
in
know if
Tampa.
Mark Jackson was considered or not. It would make me feel better at least that they considered him, and for whatever reason they decided not to. Yeah, to
They
go
interviewed they interviewed D'Antoni,
right.
who hasn't won anything,
Well, and
but
again,
but he get buckets though. His
and
teams
that's
get
my
buckets.
he gets but but did you win, Sprite? That's all I want to know.
I got you.
Yeah. So and again, it's your moves up until that point were saying, okay, here's a organization that wants to put a winning team on the floor. That's what gets people interested and excited about the team. And you got that level of excitement with LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and company. You need one or two more pieces, and if you got a coach that can come in and motivate them like the coach did up in Boston in his first year, um, then now, and he gets them past, he gets them into the playoffs without having to do the play in, and
Right.
they win the first round. Not now to me, that's signs of the organization wanting to build a championship squad.
Well, Coach, you got any more comments about this?
No.
I'm amazed how quickly this time has passed, and I'm not going to expose Coach anymore to his comments, but I do want to say that the time has gone real fast, a lot quicker than I thought it would have. And one of the other topics I want to talk about, I think we're going to hold to the next time. I do want to say a couple things about the NBA since we're on it. One of the big news stories today, and we probably be talking about it the next time around, is Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant asking New Jersey, I'm sorry, Brooklyn, to be traded, and Kyrie opting in for his $37 million to stay with the team, but still wanting to be signing a trade deal, which is something we probably talk about next time. And you know, and one of the things I would say, ask you next time is, do you consider the Brooklyn experience a big time a failure, one of the worst in the history of basketball? Or do you think that's just the way it is in basketball? You try to make things happen and it doesn't happen. But if y'all want to comment on that real quick before I get to the off the wall question.
No, I want you to go to the off the wall. But I also want to thank everybody that did tune in, and we got some good comments, we got some good questions. So I want to make sure we acknowledge those that decided to spend a little time with us this evening. I hope.
Well, I was going to give you a chance to make a closing comment and express yourself and tell us how much you were looking forward to reading Coach's book.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. How many pages?
I am too.
James? How many pages?
Look, it's 100 pages.
I'm starting on page 51.
Well, tonight, since y'all made utter fools of yourselves the last time I posed the off the wall question, I decided to take it easy on you tonight and make it. And I think that y'all probably would agree on this question, but this is a question that people argue about all the time. Who is the best entertainer, Prince or Michael Jackson?
Prince.
Oh my goodness.
Prince.
Oh my god.
Prince.
Hey, yeah.
Anytime all you need is an emblem for your name, Prince.
I was dreaming when I wrote this. Please excuse me if I go astray.
So it's all Prince. It's all Prince.
Entertainer, Prince.
You think Prince is the best entertainer?
Prince.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm saying
for me, because it was kind of like old school stuff. Before Prince was Prince, I forget exactly what his name was, but the fact of the matter is he was doing it for a long time and he was doing it solo. Michael Jackson is great, but yet I will still say to you, Prince.
Here's
Hold on. Tell your daughter to get off this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear nothing about Prince, Jamie.
Hey,
that's my girl.
I come at it from. I mean, you got it. You got two extraordinary performers. You got to acknowledge that.
Richard, give me an answer. Prince or Michael Jackson? Which one is?
You got.
Oh, he already said Prince.
You got to acknowledge Michael's.
Did he say Prince?
He said Prince.
Then there you go. There you go.
But you talk about one, his musical ability, his performance ability, and Prince has his fingerprints over so much of the industry. I mean, I'm talking about from Alicia Keys, Chaka Khan,
playing every instrument, all of it. Movies, Purple Rain.
Is just, I mean, he's as a musician and as that creativity, and then that whole impact culturally. And and Michael sets a very high bar. Michael sets a high bar, but Prince, and Prince. Here's one thing, and this is kind of interesting, related back to sports. Okay, so now Prince is a Minneapolis guy, and the Lynx were pretty good up there for a number of years. They had a girl from Louisiana, LSU. They played on them. They win the championship, and I think Candace Parker might have been on that team.
No, Maya Moore was on that team.
Who?
Maya Moore.
Maya Moore, and who's the girl from Louisiana, the LSU? I love Simone something.
Yeah.
Simone Augustus. Simone
Simone
Augustus.
Augustus. Yeah.
They win the championship. Prince is there. Prince gets word to team officials and say, "Hey, I'd like to throw a party for the girls tonight at Paisley Park." They do their celebrations. They get on the stage, get their trophy. They get on the team bus. It goes to Paisley Park. They collect all the phones. They go in. They're partying. Prince plays his whole repertoire from whenever they got there till in the morning. Then he cooks them breakfast and then sends them on their way, early in the morning.
So he's a great entertainer and a great cook, Coach.
That's
Well, let me
There we are, brother.
let me tell you this. Let me tell you this before I go. Give you my opinion because, I'm the arbiter of right up in this joint. So whatever I say is the right answer. Right?
Yeah.
It's to me it's closer than y'all say, but I started on Prince. I came late to Michael Jackson. Other than the Jackson 5, I was in high school. I was young, so that was a big deal, the Jackson 5. But when Mike got on his own, I liked a lot of his stuff. But as an entertainer, I think he does a lot of things on that stage. But when I was in college was when Prince came out.
Yep.
And Prince was, let's just say when I was in college, I could have been doing some inappropriate things.
Now, wait a minute.
See, when Prince came out, Coach, I was in elementary school, so I ain't have to worry about that.
I'm just saying, I remember his first album.
Don't you belong to a certain fraternity, right?
The world's greatest fraternity. Do I need to say?
No,
I
you
said,
don't need to say. I
Kappa
don't even know why
Alpha
Richard
Psi
brought
Incorporated.
that up.
Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated,
but
notorious Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated.
But could have been doing some appropriate things. Like you say, let me push back on that a little bit.
I might have been doing some inappropriate things at the time. And so Prince fit into what I was doing at the time. So I had to say Prince is that dude, because of that. And but I will say, as his career went on and he got more into that Jimi Hendrix rock and roll stuff, he kind of lost me a little bit. But the fact that he can play all those instruments, and the thing that I really give him credit for is all the women that he had during the time that he was in public life that I knew about. Even when he left them, they never said anything negative about him. That's pimping. That's pimping.
No.
Yeah,
because
so thank you folks for joining us tonight.
Look, hold up, Coach. This ain't no religious show. I mean, people wanted to be real. You wanted to be, what's one of them crazy evangelists? No, it ain't. That ain't how we do. That ain't how we get down. Just so you know, y'all ain't gonna keep me caged up. And anything I said that might have been inappropriate tonight, blame it on you because you started. Brothers, y'all got any comments before we leave? It's been a good show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just want to. Yeah, I did too. I just want to say, last time we did the show, we talked about Brittany Griner, and on an update on that is that I think she has a court hearing coming up shortly.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Her detention time was extended another 30 days, I believe. It's I think it's a situation to keep an eye on. And if there's anybody out there that knows anybody that can, do anything, keep the pressure on. Um, you know, there's a lot to it, and the fact that she's being held over there and it's already been declared held, unfairly. So, yeah, I just wanted to get that out there.
Coach.
Now, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you a great deal. We love you guys out there, and hopefully we'll be in a position to continue to bring you information in regards to not only sports but those societal interest things that individuals are actually thinking about and pondering as well. So thank you for joining us this evening.
Well, I thank you brothers, for allowing me to be my silly self. And, we didn't get into our personal stuff tonight, but I want to say, as we go further, you'll see more of my silliness. And this has been a great show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and keep responding to the show. Let us know what we're doing. And if you like it, let us know. If you don't, let us know. And we'll keep it moving. Till the next time, two intellectuals and a fool.
Two.
We out.
Fool.